Right, if you're a developer, I'm sure you've come across this in Cody before. It's quite frustrating. The yes/no dialog. So you've got the standard yes/no dialog. You can click on that, and what you get is there you go. Simple yes/no dialog. Frustrating, isn't it? Only the choice of a yes or a no. The only other option is to use dialog select command to bring up a list. But what if we want text to accompany the list? Um, so let's just click on yes to get out of that. And what I mean by that is, what if you want a nice sort of chunk of text, and you want a number of options? You don't really have an option, a built-in option in Kodi. So what I've done, I've created this command, this function called custom dialog, and I'll just show you the code quick. So what I've got here, oops, hold on. Right, what I've got here is I'm just calling a dialog example here, calling a function called that. So what I'm doing is I'm setting a bunch of text. So you can see there I've got a load of new lines in it. The new lines all there, as you can see. The reason I've got that is because I want to show you a nice big load of text, so it has a scroll bar. And you can see buttons. I've set 3 buttons up. I'm not actually doing anything yet, but just like a yes/no dialog, it will return the relevant value that you chose. So 3 buttons there, but it's fully configurable. You can choose as many buttons as you want, and it will automatically configure it so it fits nicely on the screen. And then to call the function is exactly the same as you would with a dialog select or yes/no dialog. You do a variable name. So in this case, I've done my choice equals coding custom dialog, and then we've got some options in here. Now I've got all the options up here commented out just to help me out here with this tutorial. You can find all those details in the README of the Python coding in the add-on route. But what we've got in this example, so we're sending through that main text, which is that big load of text up there. Pos, that is the position where we want it. So we've currently got it as center, but we could change that to a particular particular location on the screen. So, you know, for example, we could have it 10 pixels in by 20 pixels down. We put 10 by 20 in that case, and that would be where it starts drawing the dialogue. But center, we'll always make sure it's center. We're sending through those buttons, that's those 3 buttons. Background, so by default it will just be a black background, the dialogue. But in this case I'm sending through a hex key, and it's that one there. It's sort of blue colour. You can find hex keys online, so you can go somewhere like this, W3 Schools. They've got a hex thing where you can just you know, pick different colours, and it tells you what the hex key is there. But if you've got Photoshop installed, I find that really really useful to use. All you do is click on your little colour icon down there, and you know, just pick whatever colour you want. You know, let's say we wanted something like that, and there you go. Down at the bottom, that's your key. So you can copy that and then paste it. Let's cancel that. Now, there we go. Back to this. So we've got the So we've got the background hex key there. Transparency, I've got that set to 90. So 100 would make it completely solid, opaque. So there would be no transparency. You wouldn't be able to see any background coming through. It would just be a solid colour. And 0 would obviously be no transparency at all, so it would just be clear essentially. And then highlight colour I've got as yellow. Okay, so let's run that, and then you can see what happens. Custom. Oh, let's make that bigger. Right, and we've got a scroll bar there, so you can see all that text. We can press up. We could close that if we wanted. We can come down, and we've got our 3 buttons. And you can see it's the yellow text that I chose. You can change that to whatever color you want. Same as the main text, you can change that color as well. And you can change the header. It's called disclaimer here, which is the default. But so if I click on button 1, for example, it should tell me, there you go, you selected option 0. That's in the list. That is option 0, and it tells me what the value is. If I click on it again, and I then escape out, or I click on the little X in the corner, it works just like the yes no, like the dialog select, in the fact that it sends back -1 if we click on that. So that's good. It means you don't, if you exit out, it doesn't pick the first thing in the list. You can put some code in there to do something like this, just to double check that -1 isn't sent back. If it is, it knows not to do anything with the code because the user escaped out of it. Now let's go back in there and let's just change a couple more things. Now let's go, well, let's just get rid of the background for now. We just go with the default background, which is the black, like I say. So transparency, I'll just change that to 100. We do highlight color as blue, and what else do we want? Let's do position. If we do that as, I don't know, like 10 by 10, right? So that should mean it starts 10 pixels in, 10 pixels down, and be sort of the top left corner of the dialog. And what other options we got in here? We've got size. So if I just sling that in here, size equals, I'm going to do, so it has to be sent through as a string. We are going, oh, I just realised, sorry, that should be not 10 by 10, that should be 10, 10, and then size is where you use the X. So size, if we do, let's say 600 wide by 500 in length. Okay, so let's see how that turns out now. Oh, actually, I'll tell you what else we'll add. We'll add a header as well. Header is test header. Save that. Let's go back in here. So you can see there, we've got corner here. It's 10 pixels in, 10 pixels down. You've got the header. It's a black, solid black background, and you can see we've got the buttons here that we can click on, and you've got the slider there. So 3 is a bit of an odd number, and you're thinking to yourself, not sure about that. I reckon we could probably make that look a bit better. Now the reason it's showing like that is the default width of a button is 200 pixels, which is quite large. I've got it that way just if you've got, you know, for a bigger dialogue, or if you've only got a couple of buttons. It seems to work quite well, but easy to change that. Let's go back to our code. The only thing we need to do is to make it look a bit nicer. Let's do something like what do we want? Button width equals, let's do it at about 100. That should be ample, to be fair. So let's see what happens with that. Let's click on our, make it bigger, click on our custom dialog, and hopefully, yep, there you go. So they're spread out a little bit nicer now. Very easy to configure. So that's all well and good. Let's come out of there once more, And what we're just going to add now is a bunch of extra buttons. So let's do button 4, 5, 6. When you're adding new buttons, by the way, you need to make sure that none of them are duplicated. So they all need to be completely unique names. Otherwise, it will make your dialogue go a little bit funny. There should be no need for you to have buttons of exactly the same name anyway. Right, there we go. So we've got 12 buttons now. So let's see how that looks. Save that. Let's make it a bit bigger on the screen so you can see it. There you go. So again, they're spread out all nice and even. You can see that one there. You know, once we get into 2 digits, it doesn't fit on quite right. So we could come out. We can come out, go back to our code, and what we could do is, where is our we could either make the size bigger, so you know we could change it to 600 by 600, or we could try changing the button width. So you know it doesn't need to be much wider. Let's see if we can get away with something like 105. Let's save that. Let's run that again. And there you go, they fit on. Lovely. And you can see the size of the text box itself has got smaller. It won't actually get much smaller than that. It won't go lower than 200 pixels in length. So you've always got a decent amount on there. And you know we can try any of these buttons. Let's try 7, and it tells you which one we've clicked on. Now coming back to that code, I'm pretty much almost done here. Going back to this code, what else could we do? So position. Let's say we have that center, and do you know what? Actually, let's do size as full screen. We can actually use full screen, and that saves us typing it in. I mean, full screen is 1280 by. No, it's not. Is it? Yeah, 1280 by 720 is full screen in this particular add-on. And highlight color we can leave the same. I mean, let's just quickly try. Oops, wrong button. Let's just quickly try the hex key thing I was on about. So if we go with, let's go for a dark reddish sort of color, something like that, orangey red. Let's pick that up. We copy that. We go back to our code, and what do we want? We want it's called background. Background equals that, and we've got transparency as 100, which means it's going to be solid. So let's try, I don't know, let's try changing it to about 60, just see how that works. And so we've got it full screen. Right, let's have a little play, see what happens there. There you go. That's pretty horrendous. You'd obviously want to mess around with that a little bit more, but you can see how the buttons and everything works. You can go across here, you can go down, up, along, whatever you want to do, and it formats them correctly. So that might actually look better if we was transparency. If we change transparency to, I don't know, like 100, or maybe even sort of 90. 90 might look quite good. Let's try that. Oops. Sorry, something goes wrong on this OS X when I don't minimize Kodi. I'm not quite sure why that is. It seems to be a bug somewhere. Okay, where was I? So transparency 90, I've just got to save that. Let's go back into there. Let's click on custom dialog. And there we go. It's a bit better. It's a little bit better, possibly. Let's just let's try it at 100 as well, so you can see what I mean about it being solid. Save that. So hopefully, if we click on it this time, we shouldn't be able to see the background. There you go. You just got this. But yeah, you can have a good old mess around with that, and you know, plenty you can do. There's a few functions I didn't really go into there. Not functions, sorry, some parameters I didn't go into, but it's all in the README, and you can change quite a bit in there, and hopefully you're going to find that is useful. There is a parameter in there called dialog, which is not actually being used at the moment. By default, it's set to text. Now, what that means is a text box. In future updates, if you keep your eyes on the forum and on the YouTube channel, you'll see that I am going to add different types of dialogues in there. So we can add pictures, images, videos, maybe a combination of all sorts of pictures, videos, and text. Yeah, hopefully good things to come. And thanks for watching. I know that was a bit of a long one, but hopefully it made some sort of sense. Take care, everyone.